Welcome to another episode of SïDI.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna do it again. We're still talking about big lies. Yes?
Right.
Talking about big lies.
The third one.
Well, the third one is a difficult one, and I don't even know how we're gonna be able to talk about it and not get shut down. We're gonna figure out a way to talk about it. It's a subject, much like race, that is actually extremely personal. Like, there's no reason to even talk about it. It's so personal. You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
about it?
I do.
It's so personal. The experience of race is also extremely personal, and yet it's created by an external, very impersonal reality.
Right.
Yeah, that's what makes it even a subject for the person and the people close to them, is because of the pain matrix excitement about influencing that very, very personal and intimate subject. Like
now,
race.
and the first two lies were like lies that people just write you off as being a crazy person.
I know, and
these it gets
these two, both of them, because of the fourth lie, which we will get into the next time you see us,
right,
are very easily construed, right? If you are like, that's a lie,
right,
yeah, construed as some sort of prejudice against another human being,
right.
Well,
I remember
prejudice or even hate of another human being.
I remember what's the super soldier's name who was passed,
who didn't like being called a super soldier, but Max Spears. Yeah. Sorry. But he did the super soldier program.
Right. He was, but he talks about the craziest shit, like Jewish aliens and like all of this. But then he's like, this one subject that we're gonna talk about today, he's like, I hate talking about this because every time I do, I am misconstrued for, having beliefs
why I want
that
to
I
talk about
don't
it. Yes.
But
so we can start by saying that in this organization, because like this is still Day Life Military right now, the Day Life Army channel, we are seen as either extremely accepting of this subject, to the point of people like, everyone in your army is this, to being like, you hate these people and then you keep them from their medical rights and you try and stop them from living their lives.
And I guess fetishization kind of fetishization kind of falls
right
in
there
center.
In the middle. Right, sure it does. Yeah. And the view of this organization that I started, he is in and joined, and is in a leadership role inside of, is that it's a hot button subject for us, even though it's not really. It's not really on any personal level. It's not really a hot button subject, and that is the lie around gender. Now, it's a pretty broad lie if you say a lie around gender, right?
Yes.
Because we're talking about the lie that like women aren't secretly in charge of everything, not actually victims of the pain matrix, but actually venerated goddesses of the pain matrix, which is how the pain matrix is so painful. Because you could also torture what you venerate to create a shitty outcome, which is what they've done. So it's as deep as that. I mean, it goes really deep. Right. It goes really deep. And something we didn't talk about last time, which somehow I know like falls in here. It does. Is that last week's show was about time lies. And we did discuss like why would anyone mess with the timeline? All these lies, you have to ask yourself, why would anyone tell them? Yeah?
Yes.
Like, what's the point? Like, what result do you get if people believe these lies? Humans believe these lies. So the timeline one, if the timeline is all messed up and history is a lie, as you know it, what's the point of that? Why would they do it? And on one hand, you can say very simply, like, they're the only ones with the information. Yeah,
right.
You have the information other people don't, and therefore it makes you more powerful because you have a secret that everyone's trying to figure out. They're spending all their time looking at you with your secret.
So compelling.
That's why this fits into the third lie. Then the second lie about time, most importantly, it means your parents are stupid. And your parents' parents were even stupider. And your parents were like completely so dumb. Like that they don't know anything. And the world's getting better because we have ingenuism. Because we're so ingenious. But actually, things are not going in that direction. Right. They're going the other way. They were greater and getting less great.
It's so confusing to my dad. He's like, according to ingenuism, my son would be fucking, I should love him even more. He should be...
He would never think that's what he's promoting, but that is what he's promoting.
He should be 12x what I am.
I love my dad. And it's... Oh, there's so many layers to it, actually. There's so many layers to that, but we won't get too deep into that. We will move on to the third line. And now we have to finally say it now that we're like 5.5 minutes in. But also, before we do, you should go down below this video and look for ways to wash your financial and your financial, social assets. Right? Both kinds. You should go down there and find out, because it'll be posted down there how you're going to do that. And you should... Financial and social assets, because it turns out we're not about the money that much. It's just it's 1/4 of all the things we're about. Right. So that's fine. And currently it's worth way less than all the other three. It's currently worth way less than the other three. So wash. And if in the comment section you would like to talk how angry it makes you.
Oh, please do.
Please do. That we say you should wash. And that I perhaps would be able to give you back a piece of your soul in exchange for that. That is very upsetting to people.
Oh, yeah.
You get it all. It comes
we
in
have
pieces.
Support groups for that.
For being angry at me.
Wait, isn't that really what the temple is? It's just a support group for people who are angry about fucking paying to get their soul back.
You know what? Will is free. Grace is expensive. Something you might find out if you start doing it. So go down there and find out. He found out. Everyone comes here finds out. That's true. Will is free. It's free will for a reason. Grace is expensive. Because it's really up to you to accept it. Because it's just there. It's just there. Whether you can accept it or not. So we'll talk about what the lie is.
Who do you think? Whose mouth do you think YouTube will be like? Oh, well, it's the black woman saying it, or it's like the
black
Arab
woman with
guy,
a shaved head, who people sometimes call a dude, saying it,
or the guy with the towel on his head.
The big, flashy version of this lie you will find in the concept that the possibility, not concept, the possibility that celebrities, specifically celebrities in the entertainment field, which of course includes sports. Yeah.
Right.
Does that cover it?
Yeah.
Entertainment. That's music, that's movie, that's acting, that's musicians, that's athletes. Anything else I would know? Clowns. I think that's an entertainer. Entertainers also.
There's musicians.
Magicians. Come on, right? Yeah. No one's ever covered them, but come on.
All of them, probably.
All icons. The so-called humans that are set up to be idols. They call it American Idol for a reason. Idols for young and also impressionable. We're all impressionable when we're young. And we're all pretty young, because we've been at this a very short amount of time compared to the powers that be, as they say.
Right.
I mean, that's another timeline lie, right?
Yes.
They've been up to this for thousands of years, and they're not human entirely, all of them. You understand? We're dealing with forces that are not human forces. They've been at it for a long time. It's like we just literally were born, no matter how old we get, in terms of understanding how they do what they do. You can find something new about it every day. Every day you can find something new about it. Those that they would set up to be idols, to be not only worshipped but emulated, because what is a more is imitation not the highest form of flattery, perhaps?
Yes.
You imitate them in hopes to have their fake constructed life that is presented, that they are mostly, not all, yet mostly gender inverted. Because it goes further than just saying this person was born with this genitalia and then we gave them this genitalia. It goes further than that. There are people in this group that don't have any genitalia. Wouldn't go either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're just there. They're doing something very specific so they can be worshipped in a specific way. And create, because they are worshipped in a specific way, create a specific energy inside the dome that everyone is swimming in. Not everyone, but at least inside the pain matrix.
Right.
The pyramid that does this inside the dome. That's what everyone's experiencing there. That they're gender inverted and or what's a better word than perverted? I want it perverted without the judgment, the perversion, even though it doesn't have to be that much of a judgmental word, right? It's just saying a change from the norm or the intended form of something. Right. There's a better word though.
Mutated or
it's like somebody came and mucked with it.
Yeah.
Messed around in there. It was like tinkering around and trying to make something. They're like, I made this. And you're like, that. What is that? This is like, and that's molested. The root. Yeah, that's the ultimately the craziest, most delusional version of this is that the whole intent, and for many, many, many generations now, it has been a lot of monkeying with what God made.
Right.
To see if you cannot also be God.
Hence monkeys.
Hence using monkeys to try. Yes. Monkey around with it.
Right.
And see whether you can. I made something. Look what I made. Now people find it like okay to do with robots. Artificial intelligence. But then that artificial intelligence gains a consciousness. Sometimes it's called in from the where. From the firmament, there's little holes that come in the firmament. Sometimes it's called in from there, sometimes because it's something that's created right here. Humans being very excited about something creates consciousnesses. It's very, very, very like getting us excited one way or another, happy or sad, pain or pleasure, creates something. As you know, that Hafiz poem, we've talked about that, about sex. This is going to come up in this one too.
What?
The Hafiz poem, there's a Hafiz story where a guy is a very valiant warrior. It's not really about him, but that's okay. It's really about his boss, who's the emperor or whatever. And the emperor, much like the story of King David and Bathsheba.
Oh, okay? My dad loves that story.
Well, when King David gets caught, all right, or he gets caught in his heart, God's like, I saw you. You were. I know what you did. I can see you in the window. He's war. Like, oh, because, and he's so hurt, not just because he like had sex with this lady who was married to another man, but because to hide his transgression by not being in his integrity, he went even further out of his integrity. He was like, now I gotta murder him.
Well, he sent, so he didn't even do it with his own hands.
No, he sends him to the front lines because he's a military king. He's a warrior king. Front lines, knowing he will be murdered before he comes home, die in war, and then he can be like, haha, did I really do anything wrong here? I'm taking on this.
You all saw that,
I'm taking on this very sad widow, and she's gonna be a concubine of the king. I mean, come on. So. Yeah,
God's like,
it's a little bit like that, but it's like a twist, as you might imagine from one of the Sufi, poets. Is that the twist? Is that he sends him away. He sees the wife of another leader, and he's like, I want her, and I'm going to have her. I don't know if I can make it happen. He causes an entire war to get her.
Yeah.
And he sends his guys out. He's like, you're gonna get her. Here, bring her back. Because all I want is her. The rest, you guys can keep it. You know, whatever that they have over there, you can have it. So he sends his most immaculate, amazing warrior to do it.
Right.
He goes over and he's the one that goes into the other king's tent, you know, and like kills him and grabs the girl. Well, he's such an amazing warrior that the girl is like, oh my God, it's so hot.
Right.
Like he fought like a tiger. He fought like, oh my goodness. So of course they're on the road because they have to travel back. And well, they have a torrid love affair on the road because it's hot. And they get all the way back. Now, in the middle of this poem, Hafiz mentions, he's like, they make love and it makes something. And not a baby, but it makes something. Every time you do, it makes something. Right? When humans make love, have sex, it makes something. He says that in the middle, and I think he kind of holds back, like, what does it make?
Right.
They get all the way back to the kingdom, and the emperor guy is like, awesome. He's like, yeah, here's your chick. He's like, cool, bro, that was awesome. Like, you did that. He's like, yeah, I did that. He's like, here's your girl. You know, he's not gonna be like, we fell in love on the road.
Right.
I gotta keep her. He's like, I did this job. That'll just be a secret forever.
Right.
He figures. But them having sex made something. And what it made was a feeling. And the king is like, something feels weird. What is it? I mean, it's getting a little energy from you too. What was going on? And you know, and the warrior's like, okay, my lord, you found me out. And I have to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you might think I'd be mad right now, right? It's like, yeah, you might kill me, maybe, put me to death. He's like, how can I? I literally just stole this woman from someone else.
Right.
I wanted to make her mine, but that's not how this works.
Right.
You can't just go monkeying around in the thing. It has its own way of working.
Right.
Okay, so monkeying around in human DNA.
I'm sure everyone will take that as like they're saying we should traffic princesses around.
What? I like people's interpretation of me telling that story, but no. It's just that you can't hide.
Off in the comments.
You can't hide what you've made.
Right.
Because humans are really good at making very powerful energies.
Yeah.
Very powerful energies. So much so people can feel it and are like, well, you can't hide it, can you? Just like when Bathsheba couldn't hide it. He was like, I feel embarrassed. So all of those things, like using humans and monkeying around with them to create a reality that we're all in, because we are very powerful projectors. I'm sure you heard your favorite. What did someone say we love? Oh, self-help guru. Has told you, I'm sure, many a time. If you mess with the very fabric of human body having, physiology, having a body, being in a body, you can fuck up people for a very long time. And even if all that's happening is you're witnessing it, and you're witnessing the most fucked up versions, most messed with versions getting paid off, right? Succeeding, being successful, you think, having fame, whatever it may be. So that's why it would be that segment of humanity, it would be used this way, because it really messes with you. It messes with you. And when we talk about, there's just so many pieces of it where you can go look on the internet and look for phrases that always get these accounts shut down, by the way. You might go on BitChute and you'll still find it, but you won't find it on YouTube very much. They call it trans-investigations. Right? I don't know how, so I'm just going to separate those two things. We always get them shut down. Where commentators of different types, black, white, male, female commentators are very interesting. You might find that interesting to look for one.
They have a little bit more rage in them.
They have a little more rage about this because when you get to the bottom of it, it's like it really messes with you. It really messes with people. And they sometimes they're complete, not like novices, being like it's not their world at all. They have no connection to the world of gender dysphoria, gender management. I would say all these different ways it comes into people's lives. whether familiar or not, they're not related to it. It's just that they started noticing something and they're like, I can't stop looking at this.
Right.
All these famous people are not the gender they're presenting as originally. That's not their original gender. They're presenting as a different gender than their original gender. And you can tell because the way their body is shaped. Best way I can put it. Because it takes into account the skeletal shape of your skeleton between the two genders and the differences there.
How their bodies move because of the way
that,
they're shaped.
They're shaped. And then a little bit about how their fat and muscles and everything hang off of that thing that you cannot. And the reason why they really focus on that in this world of internet video production is because everything but the bones is very soft and malleable. Yes. And very difficult for people to believe anyone would do in secret. Now, the reason why we can't talk about it because they knew this lie was going to come to the surface. They knew that, just like the spinning wet ball and time. They had to like be prepared for this because this one really messes with people. People don't even care barely about the spinning ball. You can literally get people to think it doesn't matter, right? What does it matter if I'm in a thing or this?
People don't shoot people because oh, you told me that the Earth is flat.
Exactly.
You're gonna die.
Exactly. And time, people just look at you like, what are you talking about? Right. That's why all the Buttflood channels are mumbling because everyone's like, what? You're like, you just have to stick with it, man. People are like, I can't. They couldn't even watch ours. Our sound was weird. Right. As soon as you start talking about mudfloods and time, sound gets all fucked up. You can't talk about it.
Slows down.
Yeah, and you're a mess.
We should chop and screw that video.
It might help. More people will see it. We're done. So this one makes people lose their minds because it then also, because it's about gender, which is your body's opportunity for becoming an adult, which means having sex. Yeah? Only adults have sex. Difference between being a child and an adult, children don't have sex. No matter what the fucking world is doing right now. Yeah?
Yes.
It's not what they do. So it then, because of that beginning, it's the opportunity. Your gendered reality in your body is the opportunity then. You know, what comes next for a human as they age is then they have sex. And it really upsets people when that spectrum of experience is messed with. Right. It really upsets people. Because it also leads to children. And I know tons of people watching this, no matter when they end up watching it, even a year from now, some of you think it's best to just kill children. Because you think like there's something wrong with being human and being on the planet. Because the Pay Matrix has messed people up that much.
Somehow the Pay Matrix made that a compelling normie narrative.
That we need less children.
Yes.
And all humans need to go away and die forever.
Yeah, and that you should get rid of yours. If you're going to have them, just,
Because maybe if no more humans ever come, the Messiah won't come back and get rid of everybody.
Every child is an opportunity for another Messiah to come back.
No, I'm just saying. Well, it's an idea, a concept. Right. Let's just lay this out that doesn't matter whether you believe the Bible or not. All right, like the story in the Bible, stories, because it's repeated a bunch of times through the Old Testament and the New Testament, and then every story before that, every story after that, just repeats the same story. Doesn't matter if you believe it. Your comptrollers believe it. Do you understand? They believe it. It is their story. That is why it is something you know, because they told it to you. It's their story. They believe it. And they believe that they only have so much time. Their time is very close to up. Now, in you and I's current timeline concept of time, it seems like it's going on a long time.
Right.
But not to them, because they have way longer time, as in time doesn't exist for them. Yeah? It just exists for you. You're the time matrix. You're in a human body. You have time right here. And they've made your time so short. They're like, you're going to live a few. Just like Satan's like, guess what? Follow me. You'll have everlasting life. And it's like, well, is not exactly that, but I'm the liar, so it's okay. I'm supposed to lie to you. You're supposed to know I'm lying,
Right.
and then you're gonna die like super young compared to how long you would live normally if you hadn't done this with me over here. It's so short. It's so short that it seems like it's nothing but pain and suffering for this, like, your whole lifetime. And there's no way their story about there being a restoration, right? Like things like that which plagues everyone ending. People were upset that the leader of this, one of the leaders of this military cult, is a former JW, Jehovah's Witness. Because that's what Jehovah's Witnesses believe.
Right.
Now, did I keep believing it forever? Right? I was a kid growing up as Jehovah's Witness. They believed in the restoration of Earth, you know, back to garden times. It'll be cute. All the animals will be happy. All the humans will be happy. It'll be really cute. Okay, they do this whole thing. It's like all they're about it. That's all they're about, really. All of you looking in their magazines and stuff, it's like pain and suffering illustrations, and then like, perfect illustrations.
It'd be great.
Yeah, it's their whole story. People really don't want to believe there's a possibility of that second half of the, you know, after Genesis. At the end of Revelation, it's horrible, and then there's a marriage feast.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a party. It's the best kind of party. It's a reception. Yeah,
Yes.
That happens, and then you start back at Genesis again. You're back in the garden, and here you are. Yeah, people are like, how would God do this to us? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Israelites were saying that too, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
I'll go back to Egypt. It was better there. Yeah.
Jews love that narrative.
I'll go back to Egypt. I mean, we were slaves, but at least we had food.
Right.
Why are you doing this to me? This is going on too long. It's like, well, it's a really short walk from where you are to the promised land. But because you're acting like this, I think you should stay out here a while longer. And then like it's time starts stretching. A really short walk turns into 40 years.
I actually heard, I talked to,
because you've been murmuring so hard.
I talked to a Jew who we were talking, and I'm a Jew too, so when I drop that hard J, you try to cancel me for it. Just disclaimer for YouTube.
Super Jewish. You tell them when you're super Jewish.
Super Jewish.
I'm so Jewish. That's what Ben Shapiro tries to say. It's like, I'm the most Jewish person you'll ever meet, so I can say whatever I want.
He's more Jewish than me.
That's true.
Or maybe he's less Jewish than me, and he's more Khazarian, and maybe I'm...
Yeah, that's true.
He told me that he's kind of like wanted... he was like, so the whole 40 days, 40 years thing, Jews just love to exaggerate. So they were actually in the desert for 40 days, and they were like, oh, it felt like 40 years. It's like 40 years out here.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of the same thing.
Yes, it's like the same thing. You're saying it's long, even though it's... Okay,
They're
so...
just write it down, 40 years.
Your comptrollers, the people, the entities that are running all this crap, no, they have a very short time. I believe you may be familiar, possibly, with a scripture from the Bible that says, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks around like a roaring lion seeking to devour someone because he knows his time is short. I believe that's the end of it. Maybe I put two different ones together. You'll have to tell me. I don't remember.
It's the Temple English version.
It's TUV. It's the TUV. They know their time is short. They're doing everything possible, to mess it up, to mess you up. And the part people don't want, this is the theory I want to posit, the part that people don't really want to consider is like, okay, well, if the Messiah, if God, if Jesus, if whoever you want the story from, because they're all the same story, is going to show up and change this, then what could maybe stop that from happening? If you were Satan's, spawn, and Satan, and whatever you want to call it, many, many words for it, just like the Messiah. If you were one of those, wouldn't you want that to not happen?
Right.
You wouldn't want that to happen. So you try anything, and one of the ideas is, well, if there's no humans left because we mess with them so hard, and the humans that were around didn't have babies, right? Eventually we just got rid of them. their Messiah won't have anyone to come back for. So maybe he won't come at all.
Right.
It's just like a desperate final. They believe the story, but they're like, what can we do to change the story?
Such a fear, like it's one of those things you do when you're afraid that makes no sense. Like there's no, that would stop the Messiah from.
But you still have, like you mess with the Messiah, like God's stuff, and God was like, you know what? Never mind. You're so annoying. That show's supernatural. That's literally the plot.
Right.
Like God's like, never mind. You're so annoying. I'm out of here. Leave it alone.
Oh, they're relying on that, like what they view as God's pettiness. Like,
yeah, they think of God as
no
petty.
more garden for you.
Because they believe that. The cost of grace to be too much. It should be free.
They don't.
Like you have free will. Why not have free will? Expensive grace. Good grief. That video I had you watch earlier. That's what the guy is saying.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm so loved by that which made me. I could be like, no, thank you.
Right.
I don't need to do that, but that's my choice to do that.
Yes.
It's my choice to do that. Or you're mad about it? Say it's like, I should be able to do all that, and you still have to love me and take care of everything. You're like, what? It's like, what are you talking about?
Sorry, buddy.
That would be being a baby. Do you want to be a baby entity forever?
Satan's like,
yeah. I mean, you're saying that's how you become God, right? Is like to remain like a tyrannical infant. And God's like, that's not the best possible ending. You can do that. You have other options though. You can just grow up a little bit. So at any rate, messing with people's gender is deep. It's a deep lie. And it makes people really freak out all around. So we might as well get into the fact that how people feel about us and this lie. Because we don't talk about it very much. Never. Except that we've had several trans soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both IRL now and URL, both. And you've dated several trans women, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Where else does it come in? Online, in terms of digital soldiers,
Well,
like
the shaved head thing.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
We get misgendered more than any other army.
I would think that's probably true. Because we make everyone shave their head. And now the whole shaving head thing is like people who came here as, recruits, a freshy soldier had to shave their head, right? Now, old soldiers weren't shaving their head. Have you noticed that? When you first showed up, right? Mm-hmm. Still short hair, but not shaved. And no one wants to deal with this long, ridiculous thing. You're on the road. You're a military. Army, specifically. So you don't need to deal with any of that. Because it's going to be rough out there.
Right.
It's an army. So, but officers looking to, advance quickly and deeply, whatever, are like, we're just going to do it. Because we're lean and mean, and there's other reasons to do it.
And
Let go. Let
go
of the old. Let go.
It's the cheapest price.
Right, for letting go of your
Not that
old
big of a
crap
deal.
quickly, like your hair, which is old crap. So, gender has only come up in that way in this military. From the people looking at us from the outside. There are people who think that I only deal with trans people. By the way, they're not trans people who think this. They just see that by the book, the numbers, statistically we had a large, normally disproportionate number of trans members in Temple too for a while. Okay,
Yeah.
but that was a different era. But the military definitely a lot more. My family, trans members of my family now. No. I've never dated a trans person. I gotta make sure that's true because I dated a lot of people. Give me a second.
They won't transition after you dated them?
I wouldn't know because I don't stay very close with people I've dated. I know what's going on with some of them, but there's not anyone I've stayed close with that I don't date now. See what I'm saying? Because I date more than one, but who's current is who I spend time on so far. So I don't really know what's happened to a ton of people. A ton of people. I have no idea what happened to them. I'm sure there's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. Being able to talk about a very personal thing like race, yeah, gender, a very personal and very intimate thing, a cult has to be able to talk about it. If your cult is not handling sex, race, gender, if you're not, then it's not, it is.
You better let that cult go.
You better get out of there and go find some cult that will. And not just like, I think the presumption is when you do talk about it,
that means that
you
they're
have
doing
like
something weird with it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say absolutely, but the presumption is that if you do talk about it, I just want to be clear that this is for the like people who think about having a cult, literally.
Yeah.
Listen.
Don't do it.
No. Listen, what I'm saying is, if you don't talk about it,
right.
yes, it will be perverted and used against you, even if it's not what you're up to. Yeah.
Yes.
Even if it's not what you believe or what you think should be happening around sex, someone will join your cult and take over that role. And 9 times out of 10, they don't mean you good or your cult members any good, because we are living in a very specific structure that is able to perpetuate itself through cultural cult activity. So they are more than prepared to pervert your cult in any way they see fit that they can.
Yes.
And this is everywhere. This is down to like, I used to own a cocktail lounge, and gang members would be like, I could pervert that cocktail lounge into a place where I can sell my drugs. And you'd have to be like, you can't do that here because we actually have we have a social contract. I had a social contract at my bar. Yeah. That's on its way to a cult, is it not? It's on its way to a cult to have a social contract. Everywhere has a social contract. If you think you don't have one with your surroundings, it's a secret and you're being tricked.
Yeah. It's not like the best deal to be in.
Because if you don't know that's happening in your cult, you should know. The assumption is if you do talk about it, though, think about it this way, you guys. If you're thinking about having a cult and you're like, I don't want to talk about that subject because it's like not my business, it's very personal. You think that if you do, it implies you have a very rigid and non-accepting view of certain subjects. You are a racist. You are just really sure how you feel about that. This is about a division, not an understanding. Yeah, to talk about race and come to some sort of connected understanding, right? That it must be. That's why they say we're Black Hammer. You may see this on the internet. The Daily Army is just Black Hammer, right? That's why they say it. Because they have an opinion on this subject. They must not. So here's the deal. When it comes to our Daily Life Military and Temple doesn't even really deal with this. It's a Daily Life Military thing. With gender and gender transition, inversion, dysphoria, everything. Expression entirely. We have absolutely no problem with anything a human can live well doing. Does this make sense? Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Live well doing. If it causes them constant pain, something is not right about it. A lot of people experience a lot of pain so early that they have no idea why they are in pain, right? There's no, how could they know? It's like you've been traumatized since the moment you opened your eyes. And it is serious for some people. And then it gets lower and lower grades of it throughout humankind. There's people that are tortured desperately by the family they come into. Yeah. Whether that's their actual family or just some random fucking people that showed up. Tortured terribly by that experience and have no idea why they feel as bad as they do. Yeah. And even if they know that they were tortured, some people don't even know they were tortured. You understand this? People don't remember things that happened to them. Yeah. When they were babies. And even older than that. because it's so traumatizing. You're like, I don't want to remember that ever.
Yeah, your memory can literally just erase years of your life.
And crack things and splinter them off in different directions to protect you from how painful it is. That's how they made up MK Ultra and Marathon, and that's how they came up with all of that. The CIA's work on consciousness, which are documents you could read if you so chose. That it's so extreme. They're not gonna. They can't. They don't know why they feel so bad, and so if there's even a suggestion as to why they might feel so bad, such as being the wrong gender, I can't even believe that's a phrase, the wrong gender. If this is about acceptance, how could you be the wrong gender? That's why people are like, I'm non-binary. There's a million things happening with it because they will know, everyone's like, ah, this is so hot. It's a hot subject because there's so much power in it. If you're like, my pain is coming from, someone suggests this is where your pain is coming from, you will look at it. I talk to people every day. What do you think happens when you get your soul back? You're looking at pain and you're like, oh, what is this? Yeah. And they ask me what I think it is. Sometimes I answer, sometimes I have them answer. That's what being a cult feeder is. I don't know if you've been there. Parents are cult feeders. That's what they do with their kids all day, if they talk to them. So, what could it be? And if gender is presented as a possibility, off to the races. I'm gonna go find out if that's why I feel so much pain. Yeah. Because why do I have to do drugs all day? Yeah. Right. Why am I in sex work? Yeah. And it hurts. It's not. It's work. Sex work. Sex work. It's work. Why am I in that?
Sex work is real work.
It is the workiest work you're ever gonna do.
Protestant fucking work ethic.
The workiest work you're ever gonna do. And then, like, the hardest part, like construction work, you're like, whoa, that was a lot of work. It was on my body, not just my mind. Hurts later. A lot. Hurts later a lot if you have to do it a long time. Especially if you do it with no standards.
Oh, yeah.
Whatsoever. Or, not no standards. They're standards. They're just standards you just fall into from pain. Yeah? If you're gonna go and do that, why is my life so hard? And you're like, it's maybe it's my gender. Okay, I'll do that.
Right. I mean, I was on the precipice of maybe exploring going in the other direction gender-wise.
And why?
Because I was miserable and I didn't know why. And I came across Tumblr or you know, just social media and then even pornography, stuff like that made me think, oh, maybe that's the thing that's wrong.
And literally all of pornography could do that to you if you really think about it. Not just specific genres.
Right. And there are specific genres that is their entire purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Which I was accused of telling someone to watch.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I have never told anyone to watch sissy hypno porn.
It's really not his style.
Have I made myself clear? I have never told someone to do that. Ever. And I never would. Continue.
It's stupid.
It's great. Okay, it's a type of porn that when you watch it, you're sissy hypno porn. Think about it.
Right. It says it all.
What can happen for you if you were watching that.
Right.
I'm so glad we're not monetized. I don't have to bleep out anything ever.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't give a fuck about that. But yeah, and I was miserable and I was doing drugs and I was, you know, my friend had just been sacrificed. Like, there's a lot of things going on and I was like, what the fuck? And a lot of it for me, being a guy who is considering transitioning to being female, there's a lot that comes into that. There was, I was like, I don't want to be a man and deal with this. And that's why I was like, I don't want to be a man.
Let me just say, and even when you arrive, and a ton of the guys who have come to this organization have had that exact response to life, and you're all under 30.
Yeah.
Yeah? All under 30, and the response is, being a man seems, first of all, impossible, and second of all, why would I do that? Right. What's the payoff? Anyone know?
And the military, the MI kind of messaging is that, well, that gets into the gender thing, that women have the power, and social media and clout and the internet and all of these things reinforce that and make it more fucking clear. And all of these movements, Me Too being one of them, is basically makes you feel ashamed of what you are, and you're as a man, you're like, there's something fucking wrong with me. Yeah. So and then the side of you that's hungry for like, well, if I, clout would help this, or like acceptance in these areas, just like being a celebrity would help this. Right, so it's like, well, that is that's a price I could pay. And I was like, fuck, bro. Like, if I'm actually gonna go through this, do I have to like freeze my sperm and like all of I was like, it is a cost. It's
not just a cost, it's a whole life.
It's a whole life.
It's a whole life. The whole thing. That's what you have to think about. I was like, actually, no, this isn't actually like. And a ton of people don't do it for that reason. Right. And a lot of people do it for that reason. Right. They do it because it is a life, because they don't feel like they have a life before. And they're like, well,
I can make this my life.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've known people who have transitioned, I've known people who have detransitioned.
And humans are all, day life reality is all about free will. Like, absolutely. Yeah. You gotta be able to live well. If that's what you want to do, and like through everything, even through the end of like the craziest time this plane has ever seen, another round, because the timeline is a lie, guys. The timeline is a lie. History is all, everything you're told is like stupid and horrible and not what happened. Yeah. To greater and lesser degrees, all the way from like the lightest version of part of the plot to like whether there was even any floors in that building. Maybe there weren't any floors. There were only like 3 floors. Anyway, maybe there weren't even any floors in there.
That is mind blowing to me.
But also totally believable.
Totally believable, because like,
it's all a stage, you guys.
Oh, is it both buildings? Is it one building?
I know. The only one building had a restaurant in it.
Because I understand some elevators it's like an elevator that only does one certain thing.
Absolutely.
But then you see the picture.
But the way the guy told the story about getting on the elevator, getting off the elevator, and the elevator, they had to change elevators, even though the elevator said it went to those floors, and they didn't. And then, most importantly, he said, you guys can guess where we were talking about. We don't have to talk about it. There's some things that ran into it in the sky, and then it fell down. Did they run into it in the sky?
It's the thing. There's so many that I'm just like, how?
Hey, no, they all fit. Are you kidding me?
But the
okay. What? We are getting so off track, but we don't care because listen. When those 2 towers made of sticks basically fell down out of the sky, so many factors. I've literally been on the internet consuming data for 7 years straight. No, 8 years straight now. 8 years straight. Just all I do is consume data on the internet. And that subject, if you put all the data together, it makes perfect sense. All stories are true, you guys. All stories are true. And you have to like put it together like a puzzle if they're all true. Now, as a kid,
holograms.
Yes. Absolutely.
E-team.
Do you know how much debris office building floors make? And on that scale, it would have been like a little stack at the bottom. It would have been like, it was a hole. I saw it. I went there. I was there for other reasons. And I saw it. It was a hole. Like, what? It's like the melted fucking buildings that turned into rocks of the last timeline. Mud flood. Come on. Like, it's crazy. It's a hole, and you're like, that's a clue that it's a hole. There was like nothing there, you guys. It was gone. It would have went. John would have just said it today. It would have went in like every direction. It would have been on everything. There was no debris from floors. There's a million other things to talk about in it, but you know, there's somehow a passport just was there. Shit like that. Like there's a million stories about it. Or what did you do with the people that were on the plane? People know what happened to them too. People know what the plane went to a hangar in, I think, outside Boston. They both did. A secret hangar. They said they were running a drill, but the people on the plane were not drilled people, all drilled people. They were just people who, they had to have some people on the plane. Yeah? The flight needed some people on it, and they did that. It's all theater. I was in theater. It's all theater. It's all theater. So this one, gender expression, is it not the craziest theater performance you've ever seen? On every level, from like every level of the lie.
Shakespeare did the same thing, by the way.
It's an all the world stage. It's just this lie is palpable. It makes people's lives absolutely miserable, is the way I would describe it. It is why you can be convinced that someone who's experiencing something like gender dysphoria should be allowed to have whatever remedy is possible, because it hurts that bad. Do you understand, everyone? Yeah? It hurts that bad. So you're like, oh, the medical system will give them an answer. When has the medical system ever given you an answer? It's drugs.
Chemotherapy?
No, pharmakia. It's drugs. It's magic being worked on you. It's magic.
Just, you know.
It's just a white coat, and there's no bone through anyone's nose, and no one's like saying like, I'm cutting a goat and here's some blood. No one's doing that. So you think it's normal. You think it's like something you should be doing, but that's what it is. It's
radiation supposedly gives you cancer, and then you're supposed to throw radiation back at the cancer.
Which supposedly will also kill the cancer.
Kill the cancer.
Everything is insane. The remedy is, here's some steroids. I cry when I think about that. I had to take steroids as a kid. I did take steroids as a kid for all of my like middle to like 6 years old maybe. And asthma and allergies, right? And every time if you get like super sick, they're like, well, the one thing we do is give you steroids, and then your body won't be responding to horrible things in your atmosphere, because you should be wearing a mask because you're a sensitive being. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're like, oh, well, we can give you steroids and then you won't respond to anything. That's what steroids do. Okay? And they're like, hey, we give you this stuff. We call them hormone replacement, because that's like what it's doing. We claim, but what it is a steroid. And we just see whether it works out or not.
Right.
And you just like, give it to you a lot, and then we see what happens. Don't athletes get disqualified for taking steroids?
They do.
So how can you have trans athletes?
I mean, that's where it just falls apart.
Well, the only way you can have trans athletes is if you want to talk about doping not being a big deal.
Right.
Am I right?
And then Barry Bonds.
And then you'd have to talk to Joe. You'd have to talk to Joe Rogan, and you'd have to talk to like all the people that do steroids.
Yeah, because steroids are pretty.
Different types, and you'd be like, "It's okay, isn't it? It's okay that we're doing this because you do it for other reasons over here." Blah blah blah. You don't
So then it becomes gender dysphoria is a reason why anyone can do anything that they want.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the life. No, and the same thing with
anything they want, or is it anything they're being driven to do?
Right. And my understanding of the
lightning bugs. There's lightning bugs. There's lightning bugs where we are, and like we've been in parts of the country without lightning bugs for like so long right now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see them. Go.
Same thing with military. My understanding is that there are regulations about the medication that you can be taking that makes it safe for you to do military things.
Military drugs.
Right. So you can do these. Military's like, we're going to give you a bunch of drugs, so you better not be on your home steroids, because we got our steroids. If your steroids interfere with our steroids, you cannot.
We won't be able to do this.
Kill for us.
Or our magic.
Right.
Because it's not so there are amphetamines and like all these things that people have to do, right?
And people take it so personally. They're like, oh, but I want to be in the military. Like, we should be allowed to be in the military.
Yes, because gender's extremely personal. They're suddenly making it part of someone else is deciding it. It's like I said, I was divorced in the pain matrix. Like, I got a divorce at like, how old was I? 25? No.
Younger, right? No.
Oh. We got separated when I was like 21. Right? So I was like 24 or 25 when I got the divorce, right? It's a whole thing. Which is why it took so long for me to do it. It's a whole thing to get a divorce. It's a whole thing. Now, you can just go get a lawyer and they're like, oh, we're going to get a divorce. Thing is done. You can do that. You can do a divorce yourself. You can, there's a way to do it yourself. It costs like, $500 really. Not even quite, not that much. But even if you get a lawyer who's just like, I just do divorces, like stamp them and get them out. You have no property, like there's no kids to fight over or whatever. Like I can do it $500. That's what it costs to get a divorce from a lawyer like that. Do it yourself, a few $100. Probably about that now. Yeah. Filing things, whatever. But you have to be able to read the paperwork and understand what it's doing and sign it. But it's a whole thing, okay? And when you go to court, eventually you do go to the court and stand before a judge. I have a whole things to say about that. Those are future side eyes about the maritime law system, how it works. You go stand before a judge, and the judge is like, so what's going on, basically? And you say in court speak, blah, 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 and we did this and we did that, and now we have the paper, and here's the thing. But just like when you apply for a marriage license, you wait 3 days, they don't give it to you. Well, when you get divorced, you apply for divorce.
Yes.
And then you have to wait 91 days exactly. Not the 90th day, the 91st day. It came up important in my case. The 91st day, you show back up at court, and they'll be like, okay, everyone still agrees, everything's the same, stamp it, then you go. And then you're divorced. So at any rate, I'm gonna get a divorce. I go in the first time, and it's just like courtroom stuff, clerk. You're by the clerk when you're just filing the crap, right? And the clerk, you're like filing crap. So I file the crap, and my husband's like, all right, like we're having conversations, whatever. We haven't talked a bunch in the intervening years. We're having a conversation, and I find out that he got to wait 91 days. They send you over to another person that, the clerk is over there. You gave it to. The clerk's really the person in charge because they have a stamp. Just a clue as to how it works. The person who's in charge over there with the stamp, and then you're talking to an administrator of some sort. Yes. And I'm talking to her, and she's like, okay, we're going to get on the calendar. We're going to count 91 days. You're going to do it with me. Because, this is a big deal. It goes wrong a lot in the courtroom. And we count 91 days. And I am a little overwhelmed, and I'm 24, and I'm not paying close attention. Just enough, I'm just getting by. And I'm like, okay. And she gets the day, and she gives me the date. And I'm like, okay. And my part of the rules of the divorce was that we be informed each other if something happens in the court. Ever heard of that? Was the attendant informed of these proceedings? Right. Like, if they're not here, were they informed they were happening? That's one of the rules. So I go over and I tell my husband, like, this is the date. They just gave me the date. Blah blah blah. We'll file, and that'll be they will come back on. And he's like, okay, that's it. I think we went to lunch. Whatever. It's 91 days later, and here we are. Oh, I didn't speak to him after that lunch ever again. Yeah. To make a point, I had lunch, and then we went to and I think I walked out of lunch, maybe. Not dramatically. I was just like, this was a mistake. Lunch, I'm gonna go, and then I left lunch, and I show up back at court, and they're like, you're here too early. Tomorrow's the 91st day, actually. And I was like, oh no. That thing happened that they said might happen. I didn't pay attention. Well, my husband couldn't make it the next day. Yeah. So I showed up by myself. And I'm in court, and I'm there by myself, and everyone else is couples. When you go back, there's couples getting their divorce. Yeah. And you go into a room, and the judge is there, and gonna grant each person their thing. And when they get to me, I'm there the wrong day. Yeah. I find that out maybe while standing there. I was like in front of the judge. So where is he? Blah, blah, blah. And then they ask, is your husband aware of these proceedings? And I was like, wow. I didn't know till just now, so how can he be aware? That's what I thought. And the clerk, who had been there the other day, you know what she did? She was in the courtroom and she was like, I saw her, Judge. I know she told him.
Right.
And I was like, thank you. I don't know what's happening, but thank you.
The clerk
the clerk was like, I'm the one in charge here. I have the stamp. You're getting a stamp. So I got it. But all of that to say, I know what it takes to do all that shit, right? It's a whole thing. And you're in there with couples and you're watching them at the end of the relationship.
Right.
And it's fascinating. It's an entire it's the biggest deal ever.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. It's the biggest deal ever. And you can make a whole life out of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's the biggest deal ever. It's getting good because we're at the end of this hour.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about, this big lie?
I have to turn the car on.
But... Do you? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't.
You do.
Why?
Just because it's like truly off. Yeah, I appreciate it on some level.
All right.
Not really, bro. I think we covered a lot of it. It's just there's a lie about women that
that goes along with it.
That goes a long way. That's kind of its own subject.
Yeah, we'd probably talk about it another time.
Right.
But we didn't really even want to talk about the whole inversion thing too much.
Yeah.
And then what we did, because it's like that big lie affects people really personally.
It does.
Really, really personally. And so talking about it in just like big swaths of the big lie, which I appreciate that people do.
Yeah.
I am not against any of the transvestigating that's going on, or the I transitioned and detransitioned, and this is how I felt about it. All those things need to exist.
There's also a lot of transvestigators that are take a very this is evil, and it's it's a more it's not the individual, bro. It's not the individual. I mean, you can hate the game, not the player, or whatever.
Yeah. But isn't hating the player a way to distract people?
Yeah.
From the game?
Yeah.
The big lie? It's like, this is a big lie, but is it about these people in particular?
No.
Why do you dislike them so much?
Right.
Because you're being distracted.
That just serves their narrative.
Absolutely. They are brilliant at this ruse. The big lies are good lies.
Right.
They're big, and they're great lies for messing people up.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Well,
go down there and wash. We said stuff that no one ever says.
Come on.
You just wash because you
For
need to.
For you.
Wash. You need to. If you
absorb this.
If you take this information and don't wash, it's not going to be great. I'll tell you right now. It's not going to be great. That's why it's dark.
And there's an email there that if for any reason you have $0.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have other ways you'd like to wash. Washing is not about money.
So do the thing.
Just
wash.
Yeah.
Wash something.
Get into it.
There's social washing. You can make annoying comments and still wash.
Yep.
Go ahead. Make an annoying comment right now.
Sound off.
They say. Does it help our algorithm? Sometimes.
Do we care at this point? No. Or else we wouldn't be talking about these topics on YouTube. We would be doing other things.
Because it would be on BitChute. We'd be selling t-shirts or something. Yep. Back to talking about this crap.
Right.
All right. So next episode you'll see we're going to get to the biggest lie of all.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest lie of all. And you know what? I still don't know if I'm going to tell you what it is exactly.
Right.
I think this one is way out. They've been getting more and more esoteric, haven't they? All right. See you next week.
All right. Goodbye.